Welcome to my channel. Let's get at it. Now, it's a whole lot going on politically. TSA not getting paid. The Democrats are going on public record lying, and I'm convinced, and I'm going to, at least get you to think, in terms of getting on one accord, because in my mind, the devil is a Democrat and I could care less about the red side. OK, I don't know nothing about the red business. I know everything about blue, to vote blue no matter who, lifelong Democrat. So I'm dealing with the blue side. OK, and I'm a Crip. OK, and you can tag that, do whatever you need to do, because I'm an original Crip, and the original Crip stands for Community Revolution and Progress. So now this is the Community Revolution and Progress 2.0, because we got to get to the next level in life, because we're dealing with some ill humans. We're dealing with some nasty people. We're dealing with liars, cheaters, manipulators. And the reason I got this smoke is because how can you continue to convince men of God, men and women of God? Okay, first it was vote blue no matter who. Oh, no. I can't do that. Brother Sean, it's the lesser of the two evils. Oh, you want me to choose between Lucifer and Satan? Satan, the Lord rebuke you in the name of Jesus. So now it is sad, because I've seen a pastor, win a congressional primary. And then you got Warnock, who's a pastor who's going on the House floor pushing a narrative and an agenda that's against God. The word of God says you cannot serve two masters. So if you are a pastor, you are a shepherd. If you are a shepherd, you are preaching and teaching salvation, preaching and teaching righteousness, and standing on biblical principles. But if you sold your soul, it is what it is. And this is what these individuals have done, because we all know the story when Jesus was on the mountain, came off that 40-day fast, and the devil came and came to Jesus and said, hey, look, I know you're hungry, but go ahead and turn that rock into some bread. And Jesus, came back, clapped back, and said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. But I guess these pastors, preachers, and teachers forgot that. This is why they have sold their souls to the Democratic Party, because the devil is a Democrat. Okay, Jesus went a little higher. Jesus was sitting there on the mountain, on the cliff. The devil said, hey, I know who you are, but if you all that, won't you jump off, unless you go, hit your foot on them rocks down there. And Jesus said, listen, it is wrong to tempt thy God. Okay, he went a little bit higher, and then he was sitting there looking at God's glory, looking at God's creation. Look at this beautiful scenery. Look at what God has created. And the devil came and tempted him one more time. And the devil said, if you follow me, I'll give you all that. And Jesus rebuked him and said, away with you, Satan. The devil disappeared. And likened unto that, we need to reject and rebuke the devil out of our lives, no matter what it looks like, no matter who it is, because God is in control. And this is the time that we sanctify ourselves. And sanctification means separate, because there was three on that cross: a scribe, a Democrat, a Pharisee, a Republican. And right there in the middle, according to the doctrine, according to the word, Jesus. And that's the spot that we got to fill as nonpartisan independents. And I'm going to go ahead. I have to do this, because this was the write-in campaign that I had, in 2024. Pastors was mad at me. Pastors was upset, and I'm sitting back saying, wow, don't serve God your whole life and then have him tell you to depart from me, you workers of iniquity, because the devil is a Democrat and we got to get at it. OK, because the politics is taking over. Like I said, TSA is not getting paid, but the Democrats is basically, saying it's the Republican fault. ICE is funded, but DHS is not funded. So they're holding up funding on DHS, which is a partial shutdown. And then they're blaming the Republicans for shutting down, because the Republicans don't want to negotiate. I wouldn't negotiate with no Democrats. Not me, because the party is over. It's a lying party. And I'm going to prove to you, I got a few videos that will blow your mind. And if you're not convinced today, you're going to be scratching your head and you're going to be having these conversations, because I'm going to go on a tour. Okay. And I'm going to debate anybody that the devil is a Democrat, because these cats is crazy. When I say the devil is a Democrat, it's clear, because it's how they act, how they act, they being the Democrat. Same sex this, same sex that, the devil is a Democrat. Jesus said, follow me, I will make you fishers of men. But the devil said, follow me, I'll make you fishers of sin. So let's get at it, man. The Democrats be lying, man, and they be lying. And I want to talk about some Cesar Chavez too, okay? Because Dolores, who was one of his flings, has come out and said Cesar Chavez raped her on 2 occasions, and then she had 2 babies. But first time, shame on me. Second time, shame on you. But Dolores, like I said, was a hot hyena back in the 60s. Now she in her 90s. Oh, no, Dolores. No. Dolores was a hot hyena. They was all with it. But this is nothing but a precursor to bring down the rest of the civil rights leaders, because next will be Dr. King. Because if they could do this to Cesar Chavez and take away all of his schools, his names, his statues and all of that, that's the precursor. So when they do it to Dr. King, you're going to have the Democrats, well, he shouldn't have been doing what he was doing, because like I said, the devil is a Democrat. So I'm going to do a whole thing on Cesar Chavez. But right now, I gotta expose the party of the Satan. I gotta expose the Democrats ruled by the devil, because these individuals are they can't be trusted. And I'm gonna show you why they can't be trusted, because I saw a video over the weekend and actually hit my timeline this week. Computer tripping, let me see here. It hit my timeline this week, and you got Chuck Schumer on the House floor saying that the Republicans voted down a clean bill to fund TSA. That is a lie. And you ask yourself, why is Chuck Schumer doing that? Because that's the Democratic Party. They lie. Okay. And I'm going to show you some receipts today. But check this out, what Chuck Schumer said on the House floor.
If the motion is not agreed to,
Democrats want to pay TSA workers ASAP.
That's a lie, but let me go ahead and fix it. Okay. He said Democrats want to pay TSA, ASAP. All right.
With no strings attached.
With no strings
yes
attached.
Vote would do that. That's the first time in this chamber we'll have an opportunity to vote yes or no on whether you want to pay TSA workers ASAP with no strings attached. I urge my Republican colleagues, vote yes if you want to pay TSA. Vote yes if you want to bring down the long lines at airports. Vote yes today.
as senators.
Yeah, okay. So the bill that he basically wanted to vote on turns out to be a Senate Bill 1338. Okay, which they did not even have a vote about, TSA workers. Chuck Schumer put this on his website or on his Instagram page, and then they use a different vote, which is the S1383, which is for Veterans Accessibility Advisory Committee back in 2025. And it was actually the rule, a House message to accompany S1383. Had nothing to do with TSA workers, but Chuck Schumer put it on his Instagram because they believe that you're stupid and they believe that you will pay attention and believe anything that they say, but they lying. Willie Lynch said it himself. We could do this for hundreds, if not thousands of years, unless a phenomenon happened. And the phenomenon is social media and the internet. We are not going to sit by the program by legacy media sitting there lying to us. And I'm going to just give you an example before I give you some more receipts, because I was watching the news this morning and USC was supposed to, University of Southern California, right up the street, was supposed to have a gubernatorial debate, okay, with the people that's running for governor. It's about 7 or 8 individuals running, but somehow they canceled that because they said that this is what the news said, the USC is going to cancel its debate because they have left out notable prominent, candidates of color. But talked to USC, their media department, and USC media department. They said that they only had room to debate the top 3 front runners, and these prominent men of color, Villaraigosa and Tony Thurman, was not invited. Is because they have no chance or no pathway to victory. But the news said the reason why USC has shut down the debate is because they decided to not invite any notable candidates of color. Straight up lie. They invited the front runners, and none of these candidates, Villaraigosa, Tony Thurman, y'all don't have a chance in hell to be the governor of the state of California. Okay, so why should USC have to put you in, the debate just because the devil is a Democrat? So let's go ahead. So listen, man. Listen, check this out. This is your president, Barack Obama, telling these people to lie, bro. This is your president. Look at this. Check this out.
U.S. propaganda. But isn't that illegal? It was.
So this was back in 2013 when President Barack Obama was president. And he basically, put a House Resolution Bill 4310, a law to allow the U.S. government to fund propaganda in the United States of America. Let that sink in. H.R. 4310, signed into law by President Barack Hussein Obama, a law that allows the United States government to fund propaganda for U.S. citizens. And propaganda is lies. Just lies. Okay, because it's a dirty game. This is why stuff is coming out on Trump. In the Epstein files, because the Epstein files turned out to be 83% about the Democrats. But then you will have, Congressman Ted Lieu and individuals come out and trying to, make an argument against Trump when none of the victims have said or implicated him in anything, in any wrongdoing. But the Clintons will sit back there and lie. But you don't say that because you vote blue no matter who. Wow. The devil is a Democrat. So listen to this, and this is what Obama signed into law. He signed this into law. Okay, just listen to this.
But no, not anymore, because 3 years ago, wrapped inside the 2013 NDAA, was an amendment that removed the ban on the U.S. government creating propaganda and then showing it to U.S. citizens. That ban, by the way, had been in place since 1948. The 2013 amendment struck down a ban on domestic dissemination of propaganda material produced by the State Department and the Independent Broadcasting Board of Governors. Wow. It neutralized the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948 and the Foreign Relations Authorization Act in 1987 that had been passed to protect U.S. audiences from our own government's misinformation campaigns. So what you need to know is that politicians claiming we need to fund U.S. government propaganda to protect the public from the Russians and from the Chinese. But there's a reason it was illegal for over 60 years for our government to propagandize the public, to protect the public from our own government.
Yes.
So this law.
So did y'all just hear that? Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and pause it and give some commentary. I'll let you, hear it fully. But it's clear that And who was president in 2013? Barack Hussein Obama. So let that sink in. Okay. Propaganda was illegal. Okay. They put that into law back in 1948. But in 2013, they just opened the machine. And Barack Hussein Obama is the king of the propaganda. Okay. Because just like Dolores Hortes, who was a victim, with Cesar Chavez, that was his little hind of it. All of a sudden, she's 90. Now, the spotlight is going to go on the Obamas because it turns out that Obama, his whole legacy, all of that is a fraud. Okay. And you got to have some man, some cojones to stand up to unrighteousness. And like I said, it's no doubt in my mind that God is telling us right now in these last days to stand up against unrighteousness and to warn the people to leave that burning house, because you don't want to live your entire life, your entire legacy like Cesar Chavez did. And then all of a sudden, when you're in your grave, they just tear you down. Okay, so listen to this. This is the propaganda machine that Barack Obama signed into law, and he is the king of it, and he is championing this this organization or this operation. And I'm gonna show another video. And like I said, when I do my research, I need at least 2 or 3 references. Okay, I'm gonna give you another reference, and you're gonna just be like, wait a minute, this thing is unraveling because the Democratic Party is a sham. The Democratic Party is the opposition. The Democratic Party is the party of the devil. The devil's opposition is God. The Democratic's opposition is to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. Let's check this out. I'm gonna do some commentary on it this time.
Essentially funds U.S. propaganda, but isn't that illegal?
It should be illegal, but Barack Obama made it legal because that's what he do, because he's a living lie. Okay, he's not who he say he is, you know, and it is what it is.
It was, but no, not anymore, because 3 years ago, wrapped inside the 2013,
who was the president at the time? Barack Hussein Obama.
NDAA was an amendment that removed the ban on the U.S. government creating propaganda and
to remove the ban on the U.S. government creating propaganda. So it is legal. Barack Obama signed a bill, HR 4310, to make it legal for United States government officials, elected officials, to use lies. And that's what propaganda is: lies and deceit.
And then showing it to U.S. citizens. That ban, by the way, had been in place since 1948.
1948, the Cold War. The Cold War.
The 2013 amendment struck down a ban on domestic dissemination of propaganda material produced by the State Department and the Independent Broadcasting Board of Governors. It neutralized the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948 and the Foreign Relations Authorization Act in 1987 that had been passed to protect U.S. audiences from our...
It was to protect us from our own government.
Our own government's misinformation campaigns. So what you need to know is the politicians claiming we need to fund U.S. government propaganda to protect the public from the Russians and from the Chinese.
Wow.
But there's a reason it was illegal for over 60 years our government to propagandize the public, to protect the public from our own government. So this...
That's crazy. Let that sink in. You know, let that sink in. That is crazy. Okay, Barack Obama in 2013 signed a bill to allow the United States to, you know, influence, to disseminate mis and disinformation to its citizens. Wow. Say it ain't so. And this is crazy. So let me go back and let me see here. Give you some more. Let me see here. And this is coming out of Obama's mouth himself. I think this is it. Let's see. Yeah, they all on me today. I'm gonna pause it, but yeah, I know they watching. Look what Obama said. This is Obama. Y'all love Obama with his lying ass. Y'all love this. Yeah, I got smoke. Let's go. Hold up, you see that? It's no volume. Okay, I'm fighting the beast right now. Let's go. All right, there it go. Here, bear with me.
Be effective.
Come on.
You don't have to convince people that what you are saying is true. You just have to flood the zone.
Wow.
With so much poop.
Shit is what he's saying.
They use a different word, but you have to flood the zone with so much
shit,
untruth,
constantly,
that at some point people don't believe anything. If you want
that's crazy. Y'all heard with this, with the president, the first black president, or I would say the first African American president, because his mom is a Caucasian and his father is African from Nigeria, I believe. I'm not sure, but he is African American. And the more, you know, I learn about my history, you know, that, you know, wasn't no cotton picker, you know, I have 3% African in me. Okay. 97% Native Aborigine American here in my blood. The Washington Redskins logo. Come on, people. Can y'all believe what this fake brother has said? This liar has said. Okay. And propagandist lies. Listen to it. Let's go.
Propaganda to be effective. You don't have to convince people that what you are saying is true.
I quote, he said, you do not have to convince people that what you're saying is true. I mean, that right there alone is enough to say, you know what? I think the whole, party is a shim sham. And like I said, this is blue issues. We ain't talking about the red. We don't know no MAGAs. We don't know no Republicans. It's these dirty Democrats. And then they put people like this in power. But time is undefeated and the truth will make us free. So he's telling us the truth. And when you believe in God Almighty, you have choice. So the choice is yours to stick with the party of the devil or become a nonpartisan independent and stand up for righteousness and combat unrighteousness, lies, and defeat and deceit that this man, this former president, two-term president, is going on public record to tell you that it's all lies. And I just showed you a video earlier about Chuck Schumer talking about the Democrats will, we could fund TSA tonight. That's a lie. Okay, that's why ICE is at the airports right now. Republicans shouldn't debate or even have conversations with you people because the devil is a Democrat. Listen to this.
You just have to flood the zone.
Flood the zone. You know what flood the zone mean? Flood the zone.
With so much poop.
With so much shit.
They use a different word, but you have to flood the zone with so much
shit.
Untruth.
So you have basically saying you have to flood the zone with lies and deceit. And he was calculated with his words. So you have to flood the zone with lies and deceit to be a Democrat. And he's a Democrat saying it. OK, this blue business. OK, I don't know nothing about the red. You got the red, the white and the blue. We the blue. OK, like I said earlier, I'm a Crip. Community Revolution and Progress. We got to do our first work over because somehow these individuals, these Democrats, these liars, propagandists, people like Barack Hussein Obama is leading God's people astray. And they are taking you directly to hell because they are disconnecting and moving you away from your God. OK, whatever you want to call him. God know who he is. OK, the highest of the highest powers, Lord of Lords, Kings of Kings. OK, the creator of everything. That's the God that I'm talking about. Not some fake religion, not some offspring, from the top. And right now, this black man, know his ancestry, from the tribe of Judah, descendant of Abraham. We at the top. So now it's time for the top to have this conversation, because once the top start having this conversation, that trickle down effect will work and will be real effective moving forward when it comes to American politics. Listen to this lion ass beat.
Constantly.
Check it out. I'm gonna let you hear it. Let me shut up.
At some point, people don't believe anything. If you want propaganda to be effective, you don't have to convince people that what you are saying is true.
Can you believe he's saying that?
You just have to flood the zone.
Flood the zone.
With so much
lies.
Poop.
Shit.
They use a different word, but you have to flood the zone with so much untruth. Constantly.
My God. Y'all love this man?
That at some point, people don't believe anything.
Wow. Y'all love this man? Okay. Do he have a statue? Well, we know ain't no woman about to say he did anything to her, but a man will, his chef will. Like I said, God is undefeated. So let me see. Let's just go there. Let's go. So now, okay, since I got his wife cued, and watch what she say. Okay, watch what she say. Watch what she say. Watch what she say. And it's still up. And this video with Michelle is on Truth Masked 01 on Instagram. Still up. Listen to Michelle or Michael.
This phase of my life, I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning.
What?
What did you say?
She transitioned.
I walk with my husband Michael and hold hands. It's like a whole new world for me.
Michael and I also want to acknowledge. Michael and I also want to
acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today.
Michael and I.
All of you. Michael and I. Michael and I. Ted, we're the first one.
We're having with a robber, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
You know, my kids.
Watch this. He about to mix. Watch this.
Does anything scare you?
Watch this.
You know, well, when Michelle's mad, I get worried.
Yeah,
I
she'll
wanted
beat
to
your.
talk, Marlon, a bit about,
Watch this.
you know, just so proud of how you are being a role model for dealing with a child that's transgender.
Watch this.
And that's, you know, that warms my heart, particularly as a black man. You know, would you care to share? And at this
Oh man, and she said she
phase of my life,
transitioned.
I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning.
Wow, and it's still on the internet. Take it down if it's not true, okay? But in terms of that propaganda that Barack Hussein Obama was talking about, I'm gonna just give you some. Let you check out Hakeem Jeffries when basically, you know, they're, you know, not funding DHS, which is a fact, which is affecting the TSA workers, you know, at the airports. President Trump has deployed ICE and to basically support. And then you have, you know, the devil is a Democrat, you know, individuals planning to protest the airports for doing that. Because like I said, if the devil is a declared enemy of God, then the Democrats, you know, liken unto that, the Democrats is a declared opposition of the republic, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. Now, how can you do your job if you always under attack? If you can't even, you know, you do things good, they say it's bad, and then they lie. And then in 2013, you know, with the HR 4310, 3410, I got to get that corrected. I got to learn it. But they're giving them instructions to play that game. So every time you see a Democrat get out there, you know, put that in your mind, because they have their marching orders is to lie and flood the market with so much shit that nobody believes anything. And that came out of the mouth of Barack Hussein Obama. So check this out and watch this propaganda game, you know, play live on television, because Hakeem Jeffries' attempt to downplay the partial government shutdown in terms of not paying the TSA workers. And he, you know, like I said, he's caught in a lie. Watch this.
Who are the whole reason, as you just laid out, that DHS is not funded right now is because you're trying to push the administration to enact some policy changes on how Border Patrol and ICE act when they're out looking for illegal immigrants. And now what you're saying is that you're okay with funding TSA, which has been, I think, the biggest point of leverage that you possibly had in order to get what you want on ICE, because ICE already has its money. So what was the point of this shutdown if you're okay with funding TSA?
Well, we never approach these things that are in front of us with respect to government.
Remember, he said they never approach. And it's the only time I'm going to interrupt.
And funding in the context of leverage. We never approach these things that are in front of us with respect to government funding in the context of leverage.
You sure about that?
A few moments later.
House Minority Whip Catherine Clark laid out the Democrats' strategy to our own Chad program. Watch this.
The shutdowns are terrible, and of course there will be, you know, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously, but it is one of the few leverage times we have.
Well, we never approach these things that are in front of us with respect to government funding in the context of leverage.
The shutdowns are terrible, and of course there will be, you know, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously, but it is one of the few leverage times we have.
You are the whole reason, as you just...
I mean, make it make sense. Okay. But if you take orders from the former executive in chief, the former president of the United States, flood the market with lies when the people don't know what to believe. And if you don't know what to believe, I'm going to say stand still, because the truth shall make us free. So we need to be truth bearers. We need to go down in history as the truth talkers, the individuals that spoke truth, the individuals that separated themselves from the Democratic Party. And that's real, because I've been studying Satan. Okay. And I was in church on Sunday studying Satan, looking at my Bible, and I'm reading about Satan, and I'm seeing this Satan mentioned in the beginning of the Bible, Genesis 3:13. I'm like, that's Satan everywhere, all through the Bible. And then when I got to the end, I said, wow, there was a whole lot of Satan mentioned in the Bible. It said also, see demons. Okay, DEMONS. I said, wait a minute. Let's look at that root word, demo, DEMO. That word in Portuguese and in Spanish is demonia, which is devil. And the word krat in the Greek means to rule or rule by. So the Democratic Party simply means ruled by the devil. But since they lie to you so much, since they do all this propaganda, since Barack Obama has, signed a bill into law, which means the State Department can issue and put out all the lies and deceit. And only individuals that could do that is individuals that's living a fake life. Okay, if you could, catering yourself as a heterosexual male, but you're a homosexual, yeah, you a lie. If you're married to a transgender, yeah, you a lie. If you've done things that are suspect and you have a dark past, yes, you will lie. None of us are perfect. Okay. But God does understand, because he cried about, his creation. But those individuals, when you do something wrong and you feel a conviction, when you out of pocket or you make a mistake, all you got to do is repent, because the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And try your best not to do that again. And the best way to do it is not to put yourself in that situation. But when I say the devil is a Democrat, that's their marching orders. Just like the devil, lie, cheat, steal. Are those rudiments of God or rudiments of the devil? Make it make sense. And then with Chuck Schumer lying about the clean vote on to fund TSA, that's a lie. They're not going to tell the truth. And you don't know what to believe, because they're playing on your ignorance. They're playing on your stupidity, because you ain't nothing but a bunch of dumb, stupid people, and you're going to vote blue no matter who. And it's sad that you got pastors, preachers, teachers, that supports this, but, they're going to hell too. Think about it. Because if you don't rebuke the devil like Jesus did, hey, then you're a part of the operation. So, gonna separate the sheep from the goats. So y'all get on over there. And like I said, when you get up there and he say, depart from me, you worker of iniquity, you gonna remember, man, Bouchon tried to warn us back in 2026. Yeah, I did. So I'm gonna close out with this one. You're gonna hear, the wise ice at the airports and all this stuff is because DHS is not funded. The TSA workers are working free right now. And TSA workers, 68% of all TSA workers across the country. And then if you look at Atlanta airport and certain airports, it's up to 79 to 80, 87 to 90% all black workers. And they know that they own you because you are their slaves. You're not going to challenge Massa. You ain't going to challenge Obama. You ain't going to challenge the Brooklyn Barack, Hakeem Jeffries, even though he's soliciting funds from Jeffrey Epstein. We want you to meet the Brooklyn Barack. Okay. But they won't tell you about that. They still trying to, take down Caesar, but it is what it is. Because my Bible tells me render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, and you render unto God's what is God's. So if we're going to be individuals that serve the highest, the most high, then we cannot be associating ourselves with no political party that has no morals, that has no values. The devil is a Democrat. It's clear. Look at how they act. They being the Democrats, same sex this, same sex that. The devil is a Democrat. Jesus said, follow me, I'll make you fishers of men. But when you follow the devil, he'll make you fishers of sin. So I'm going to just show this last video because the ICE workers that's out there at the airports is actually, getting some positive feedback, because people at the airport 2, 3, 4 hours. But this came out this morning, and check this out. Let me see here. Let me get this up for my bro. All right, now check this out.
Take a deep breath here. The numbers have dropped off. The lines are getting shorter. I think the average wait time now is under 40 minutes. So if you have a flight to catch today, it's a good time to come to Hartsfield-Jackson International. Talking about those ICE agents, you can see a few behind me right there. And then I'm going to walk you this direction, and you can see some more of them gathered over here. This is what they've been doing for the most part today, is doing the patrols around the airport, talking and gathering, not really helping the public in the sense of they're not taking tickets from anybody. They're not interacting with the public we've seen so far. They're not checking anyone's ID. At the TSA checkpoints, they're not doing that as well. So the big question is, what have they been doing mostly? Well, it's been providing perimeter security, as you can see over here. If we come back this direction, there's also a contingent of officers over here, and the reason why is what we're being told is there's a protest scheduled against ICE here at the airport in the next 2 hours or so. So now you have extra police officers from the Atlanta Police Department ready to respond to what may happen when protesters arrive. And we've been told they actually applied for a permit. So now you're bringing all these people, surging them into one area. This is where the lines have been long throughout the day. The lines now are gone. So that's a good news, whether it's the north, the south terminals, or even the main checkpoint. We've been told that the lines now, again, are under 30 minutes, which is fantastic. That's after Sunday, when it was more than 5 hours and we saw lines stretch outside the building. When we arrived here at 6 a.m. this morning, there were thousands of people trying to get to the airport. We talked to several people who we just checked through to try to see how long it would take them. Average wait time was over 2 hours. And right now, the airport GM is actually telling us they believe the numbers are about a 30% call out. And now we've talked to TSA, a steward who tells us, look, they believe things could get better, but they want to get paid sometime soon.
Yeah.
Finally,
they need to get paid. So listen, man, time is undefeated. Time is undefeated. And, we're at a time in our lives where we really have to, put our big boy and big girl draws on and stop being influenced by the devil. Okay. God made man, he made female, X, Y. Anything outside of that is not godly. Okay. And that's why I say the devil is a Democrat. Okay. The ICE agents have pretty much cut the wait down from 2 to 3 hours down to 40 minutes. And you heard what the brother just said. It's working. Okay. They're not, doing what the Democrats will say that they're doing, the lies and all of that. They're actually helping, aiding and abetting a process to helping American travelers get to their destinations, make their flights, because they actually work for the federal government. So now when I say the devil is a Democrat, now you got to look at the state versus federal, because federal is to the republic, which stands one nation under God. State law, states fought to preserve slavery. Okay. And slavery, wasn't what they said it was. Okay. Because, I talked to one of my mentors the other day, and I said, listen, man, if we was all cotton pickers, how the hell was Crispus Attucks the first individual shot in the Revolutionary War in 1776? Wasn't we picking cotton? He laughed and he said, listen, son, he's old enough to, he's my mentor. And he basically said, listen, just tell the truth and shame the devil. We've all known that. He said his whole career was built off of a curriculum, meaning they gave him his curriculum for him to teach. Just like, I know an individual, she's in her 70s and got her doctoral degree. And then I've seen her business card and she had her pronouns on. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. Because our educational system has been compromised. And then I got another a text or a reel was sent to me, and it was talking about how the Department of Education is being taken over by the Department of Labor. And that's another conversation we're going to have, because I'm like, wow. So now we get an opportunity to put the trades back in school. So when you finish high school, you got all the tools that you need to be fishers of men. If you give a person a fish, Okay, you feed him for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he can feed himself and his family. So we got to get back to family. We got to get back to righteousness. We got to get back to it, because the devil is a Democrat, and it's clear on how they act. They being the Democrats, same sex this, same sex that. So Jesus, if you follow Jesus, you make you fishers of men. You follow the Democrats, they going to make you fishers of sin. And it's all pointing at Barack Obama. Okay. You saw the video. You saw the receipts. So I'm giving you an opportunity. I'm giving you a choice. The choice is yours. So make sure you choose God over the devil. With that being said, have an amazing day. It's your man, Bushan Glover, signing out. A Better Black America TV on YouTube. A Better Black America radio show on Facebook. With that being said, have an amazing day. Peace out.